Hello, and welcome to the Stacking Dingers Show. I'm your host, Matthew, aka Sheep, aka Dark Sheep. Find me online at D4RKSH33P underscore. And tonight we are starting an experiment. We are going to be going division by division and trying to look through each team in a underdog or best ball light. So tonight we have a couple of wonderful guests. We have reoccurring guests. We have Mr. Nez Takes. Uh, Nez, how's it going?
It's going well, man. Always glad to be back here, and this should be a pretty fun episode. So I'm looking forward to it.
Of course, if you don't know, go check him out over on the Badge Bros at YouTube, and he will cover you for any sort of underdog related thing you might need.
Got you.
And additional guest tonight, Mr. Nick Schlane. You'll know him online as at Electric Snuff. I feel like you have a prolific presence there. But also, Nick, you do work for who I forget. I really prepared.
Roto World.
Your Roto World. You do work for Roto World for all three sports. So welcome, Nick. Brand new guest to Stacking Dingers, but you and I have talked in the past. So welcome.
Yeah, thanks. No, thanks for having me on. Looking forward to chopping up with you guys.
All right. So our goal is we're going to answer a few questions on each team, and to help us, I have a few visual aids prepared. So we are using Fangraphs. Love the sports Fangraphs, and we have a depth chart. We have roster resource open, and then we have the ADP on the players. If we get into that, I'm not sure what we're going to get into, but number one, the question for I guess we're going to start. We're going to start with. We're going to go in order as they are on Fangraphs. So Blue Jays are first. I don't even know what that order is. I guess it's the team name alphabetical. So if you care about that, that's what they use. All right. So number one, any relevant spring news for the Blue Jays?
Well, I guess other than just signings, right? Mostly for the Blue Jays, right?
Yeah. Santander.
Well, there's the signings they made, and then the signings they were desperately trying to make. Which bless their hearts, man. One of the few teams actually out here trying to be a good baseball team, actively, and swinging and missing. But two pretty big signings with Santander and Scherzer for our intents and purposes.
Yeah, Santander basically becomes their second best bat on the team, and I guess the other news is they did not sign Vlad to an extension. So,
right.
If you want to talk about walk year not resurgence, because he had a great year last year, but maybe he'll throw a couple extra stolen bases rather than one. I don't know.
I guess you could probably throw out there. I don't think they will, just because of the way that my temperature check on the Blue Jays is any other team would probably be thinking about trading Vlad this year. You don't get him next year. You left on a bad note this offseason. Very, very attractive trade candidate, but I don't know that the Blue Jays will do it. I think they'll just be way too stubborn about it. But that is something to consider, because the Blue Jays don't have a lot of great stacking pieces, so you could just wish your way into a sick Vlad stack if he gets traded. But I don't think that's going to happen personally. But in any other scenario, you would think, oh yeah, Vlad's live to be traded this year.
Yeah, I don't think they'll trade. I mean, they sort of were taking offers on Vlad and Bo Bichette last year towards the middle of the season, because they were having a bad season. If they have another bad season, that the noise around that will pick up. I mean, it's just tough to see them trading him.
I agree.
They did offer him a lot of money, relatively. I mean, not enough to keep him away from free agency, a year away when he's in his mid-20s or whatever he is. I mean, I don't think he really needs like a resurgence. Like he hit like 360 in the second half last year. Like he's live to be like an MVP like any year. But yeah, like you're talking about like the stacking. Like I like Dalton Varsho, but he's just never healthy. George Springer just like too old. Like I don't think he's bouncing back to anything that like you want on Underdog. And like Andres Jimenez was like another one of their additions. Like he's more of like a glove guy. Like I know everyone like roasted them for that trade. I'm already forgetting like what they just because it was like the 3-way, right? Because they got Spencer Horwitz and
they traded away Horwitz, I think, right? Or no, they did get him.
Did they have him and then trade him away, or did he get traded twice?
They traded him to the Guardians.
Right. Okay. And then the Guardians flipped him. Right. Okay. To the Pirates. And now he's hurt.
Pirates, yeah.
Right. Okay. So yeah, I mean the funny thing was like you're talking about like how they have tried to sign all these free agents, and then they signed Jeff Hoffman because they were trying to sign him, and then these other teams like backed off that he was about to sign with the Orioles, and I think the Braves had an offer out to him, and then they like did a physical on him, and they were like, oh yeah, no, we're good. And the Blue Jays were like, well, we'll take him. And now he's their closer, which doesn't matter for best ball, but
right. The funny thing to me on that was like they just could have, if they wanted a guy that might have bad medicals, they could have just kept Romano. Like,
yeah, totally.
They would have known what they were getting at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And Romano looks good in spring.
Does he? Okay.
Yeah.
I guess that is Dalton Varsho is getting into some spring games, so there was some question mark about his timeline and if he would miss any of the start of the season. So if you want to tack him on, because we got the everyday lineup here. Basically, we're looking at this in terms of stacks. We have Vlad and Santander. I think Santander is kind of tied to Vlad and ADP. It's a very common stack. And then whether or not somebody believes in a Bo Bichette bounce back, they'll add him. And then begrudgingly, I think people add Springer. But after that, Varsho, I don't think he's even drafted every time.
I think he is drafted most times, just like from my memory of seeing him in ADP, if memory serves me right. But none of these ancillary Blue Jays like feel great, Like I guess like Santander, like you just kind of hope that he still has like the type of production that he had like the last 2 years, and I guess there's no real reason to think that he won't, other than just like nothing really going the Blue Jays' way. I mean, they are not a fun team to stack, man. They are not fun to stack at all. They're the one team I don't even go out of my way to do it. Like if I have Vlad, I just hope that Vlad is just like doing it almost all himself. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I mean Santander hit 40-something home runs last year. I mean, it's very easy to envision him hitting or closer to 30 this year and just being hitting 240 and with some walks and 30 home runs. It's like that's fine, but it's not gonna he's not gonna be the guy you need most likely. And like I think Bo Bichette will bounce. I think Bo Bichette will be fine. He'll be healthy and he'll be good, and I think he'll probably be trying to play well enough to get traded if they're not having a good season. Because I mean, if Vlad is not sticking around, I don't know why he would want to stick around. I don't know if he's a free agent this offseason or next. I think it says 5 years service time on there, so he's getting close. So yeah, I would think. And then like Varsho, like it says he's DHing there. He's a great outfielder. But he's going to get hurt. He makes these unbelievable diving catches, and he'll just get hurt. So
he's a big guy. So
yeah,
it's hard
to stay
to
away from him.
Yeah, sliding around and jumping around like that at his size, making these sick plays like that. That's a hard way to earn a living. No, I do agree with you that I think Bo Bichette is a really good like, and I say this as somebody with not a lot of Bo Bichette. He just makes sense as like a great best ball pick. Just a classic overreaction to a 1-year sample. He's way too young and has way too large of a sample prior to last year of like being the hits leader in the AL. That's worth something. especially hitting in front of Vlad. So he does just like out of principle make for a good best ball pick, but I'm having trouble along with everybody else. So I understand.
Varsho's the good Wisconsin boy, so he's got that cheese and sausage
coursing through his veins.
Yeah, coursing through his veins. The third question we have, we kind of answered there. Is there platoon bats that we have to worry about? I know they have, like you said, they have him at DH. I also think there's times that I wouldn't really call him a platoon bat because he's going to come in as defensive replacement in the games he doesn't start or whatever. But I think Varsho isn't exactly an everyday guy, especially if they're trying to maintain his health. Maybe I'm wrong because they want his defense though.
No, I think regularly they'll play him in the outfield if he can handle it with it health wise, and Santander will be the DH. Santander is not a good outfielder.
Right. All right. And then we pop back over here to the second part of it, the rotation. So we have Kevin Gausman, Jose Barrios, Chris Bassett, Bone Francis, and they have Max Scherzer here. This is, I think, projected innings is what this percentage comes out to. I guess I'm kind of meh on all of these guys, and I'm not in on Scherzer at all. So I guess Nez first. Is there one guy at cost right now that you think is valuable? And then also, is Scherzer? Are you buying maybe one more Scherzer season?
Yeah, no, there's not a whole lot here that I'm super excited about. Bassett and Barrios, I don't draft. Gausman, I've taken like a few times concerning season last year. But from my understanding, it was like kind of like almost like a splitter yips thing where it just like he wasn't getting a lot of swing and miss with the splitter, which obviously is like his calling card. So and supposedly that can happen. I mean I don't know. I don't throw splitters, but it seems scary to buy into Gausman just because like you see that sample last year, but he has a pretty good history of health, knock on wood, and I think he's a fine click at SP if you're just like trying to get some innings. Bowden Francis, I think Bowden Francis is really intriguing at his cost. Like all I can remember last year is him ending the season with like 3 gems, just like having like 3 really nice starts in his game log last year. And I mean, he doesn't have like really nice stuff, so it could just be, noise, and he's not actually like that good of a pitcher. But that's like really ingrained in my memory is those Bowden Francis starts, and he's really cheap. Him and Scherzer there back to back. I think they're fine depending on like the type of team that you are building. And the type of pitching that you're drafting at the end, where like let's say like you have some riskier guys, like if you have like, well, maybe not risky guys with Scherzer, it just has to make sense. Seeing Scherzer pitch, by the way, like hard to not like feel pretty decent about actually seeing Scherzer pitch, but hitting 94, I don't know how high his velo is going to go. Who knows what he has left in the tank. Like what's the like is there upside there? I'm not so sure.
He's going late enough that there is, but it's like, you really think he's going to make it through the season? Like he's going to be one of the pitchers you use in the playoffs? Like it's really just a bet on like him giving you some like usable, weeks during the regular season. Maybe. I mean, he's also like one like neck issue away from being out for months. Yeah. Like last year was like, that's like the last time I'm like drafting Max Scherzer as like, oh, he's injured, but he's coming back. Like, don't worry, he'll be back in the middle of May. And it's like you get the rest of that season, and then he doesn't come back till like June or July. It's just like a total lost season, basically. So yeah, he's going late, but I agree with you. Like Bowden Francis is interesting. I'm out on Gausman.
You are.
I mean, I don't think he's like his ADP is like terrible. Like what did it say? Like 125. Like that's not terrible, but like I just think he lost. Like I think the issue with his splitter last year was he lost some fastball velocity. So it's not as much of a gap between his splitter and his fastball anymore. and I'm just not going to bet on a guy his age to like go turn that back. They're not like a great team either, so like I don't think he's gonna like win tons of games or anything. And like and then like Barrios and Bassett, like they throw a bunch of innings, like they'll have some good games, but like I'm not I wouldn't say I'm targeting either of them. And then I don't, they have an interesting rotation because it's like these 5 guys, as long as they're healthy going into the season, it's like they're solid. Like you wouldn't draft like, Jake Bloss or like some, any of their prospects to be like, you wouldn't take any of those guys in the dinger.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Agree. All right, so let's move on to the next team, which would be the Orioles. All right, so I guess the the off season news here is Santander is gone. Tyler O'Neill is here. They also added Ramon Laureano, and was there somebody else? I think maybe not. Gary Sanchez, backup catcher, who was surprisingly useful for the Brewers last year, but not useful for us in this. I think the other news is that the left field wall is being moved back in part of the way to where it used to be. It seems like it's kind of like splitting the difference between the old and the new, so that should help. Especially Tyler O'Neill now that he's here, and some of those other righty power guys add a couple of home runs back. Any other news that you guys? I don't think there's really any. Is any health or anything going on with these guys? But yeah,
It's just been like Felix Bautista, but that doesn't matter for
our stuff. No, I think you hit it. Like the news is like they oddly signed 3 outfielders. I'm like, do you have room for these outfielders? You have like a whole farm system that you've been like stockpiling, and then you bring in Laureano and Dylan Carlson, and who knows if these guys make the final roster. I'm assuming they're projected to. That just was like kind of weird. I'm like, can we just get Kerstad? So he's a decision point when you're building Orioles, but yeah, just kind of interesting signings in my opinion.
I think Laureano's projected to make he'll platoon with Mullins in center field. I think that's kind of what they're going to do with him. I don't know what Dylan Carlson's doing on this team.
No. So Laureano platooning with Mullins is kind of interesting because Mullins goes kind of late, but to me the ADP is one that says we think Mullins is an everyday player. At least that's how I think about it. I forget exactly what it is, but
look
I don't
up
take
his
a lot
ADP.
of Mullins right now.
Sheep, can you look up his ADP real quick? Yeah.
Yep.
142.
142. Okay, yeah, because that's kind of in the that's pretty close to like Kerry Carpenter, who's like in the same.
It is
Kerry
behind
Carpenter.
Carey, so maybe it is.
Yeah, well,
but like
only by like a
Carey's
round.
upside's better, but
Only by like a round though, right? Carey's has got to be
10 picks.
Oh, okay, yeah, perfect. Yeah, so like Kerry Carpenter is not going to have one plate appearance against a left-hand pitcher the entire season. So I mean Laureano could just like
he might without a going.
No, he won't. He struck out against Ryan Yarbrough today in spring training. Like his OPS was 400 against lefties last year. Like AJ Hinch will wake up in a cold sweat thinking about Kerry Carpenter facing a lefty. He would rather play Justin Henry Malloy in the outfield than let Kerry Carpenter face a left-handed pitcher. It's just not happening here.
Okay.
But Mullins has been, I think Mullins is still really good. I mean, he's projected to hit like 3rd on roster resource. Without Santander there, there's really not like a guy, like an obvious guy to hit 3rd really. So Even if he's a platoon guy, I mean, he hit almost 20 home runs with 30 steals again. I mean, he's been a pretty consistent player. He's not like super duper old. Like, I'm fine with him.
I have, maybe I need to get a little bit more Cedric in my life. I was really excited about him like 3 years ago after the breakout year. I love just like thinking breakouts are gonna repeat and do it all over again. The projections are definitely not terrible on him, considering he's looking for almost 30 stolen bases and 130 games,
where
550
does
plate appearances.
where does Pete Crow Armstrong go? His projection's exactly the same as Pete Crow Armstrong.
Pete's like a top 100 pick. I don't take
Yeah.
Pete, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good comp.
Like he's the cheap version of PCA. I mean, PCA obviously the tools are much louder. He's at the beginning of his career. Like it wouldn't surprise me if Pete Crow Armstrong had 20 home runs and 40 steals this year. I would be shocked if Cedric Mullins did that. But I mean, most likely Armstrong isn't going to do that, and they'll probably have pretty similar seasons, just 40 picks later.
Okay. I guess, we look at now the everyday lineup versus right-handed pitchers as a default here on roster resource. Like you said, Cedric Mullins, he's there, right? They've got him with the red platoon. They've got Ryan O'Hearn at the DH spot, platooning, as well as Jackson Holiday at second base. But, I mean, are they going to bring Ramon Urias in to play second instead of him? I don't know. This team, like you said, Ned, this team is like it needs an injury or a trade or something to really understand how they're going to do this. But this has been what they've been doing, and they don't want to trade. So this is what we get. I do have to say that I was pretty disappointed that Ramon Laureano landed here. I was hoping he was going to land on a bad team and have like a full run, because kind of, I don't know. I'm always going back there. He's still not super old. He kind of put it together at the end of last year on the Braves. So I do have a few shares of him, but I don't think, like, as far as this roster goes, like, can we draft Heston Kjerstad or Heston Kjerstad? I don't know. I keep doing it, but I don't like it.
It definitely needs like an injury. It feels like a handcuff outfield pick where you are, just kind of either hoping he plays so well that they can't help but to like find this dude playing time. And he's like DHing over O'Hearn or something. Or an injury is I think like the only way that he really gets there, but he's a good hitter. So, in the 20th round or, the last rounds of outfield, I think it's okay to go for a little bit of upside. I think you're allowed to do that.
Yeah. And I always do it with other Orioles.
Of course.
I'm not really taking him on his own.
Yeah. Starting the season playing O'Hearn at DH over him is just so annoying and stupid. I mean, just what do you gain from that? Just let the guy play for a month or two. If he's terrible, then you go back to O'Hearn. O'Hearn's going to forget how to hit in 2 months? No. It's like, let your young player, develop and play. I mean, they didn't do, they're such a weird organization where like they have new ownership and all the fans were so happy. Oh, we got rid of our cheap owner. And the owner just keeps coming out and saying, oh yeah, there's no budget. We can spend as much money as we want. And then the GM just doesn't do, he signs Charlie Morton and Tyler O'Neill. It's just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
This team is so good and has so much potential. It's weird.
Yeah.
Right. That's the other thing. Cause like you're building pretty big stacks out of these guys. So like we think they're going to be great. I think there's also some hangover from, we're forgetting how good they were last year because of how bad they ended the season too.
Yeah, not a great postseason for this team. I think if we're still on the topic of the lineup, this is a good team to check out the ADPs for, because you can pretty much stack like 7 to 8 guys on this team really easy to stack in that regard. In that, like, you always have an option. You know, you're not stacking the entire team, but if you want to, you could. But a lot of, like, a pick 100 is really like the Oriole range, I guess you could call it. Westberg is sort of an expensive infielder. Like, the price that you're paying for Westberg is one that you are expecting borderline elite production out of infield, but I kind of like it. Him and Adley go side by side, and I would definitely prefer Westberg. Maybe that's a hot take, but I
No.
think Westberg, pretty damn good player, and I like taking him quite a bit. And not to bury the lead on Gunnar either, but I'll let you guys kind of talk about just like the stacking pieces around Gunnar first.
Well, like, where do you think Westberg would be going if he didn't break his hand or wrist or whatever that was at the end of the season? If he just like finished off, that was a breakout year that he was having. Like, if he finishes that off, he's probably going higher. Because like he's going, what is it? Is it pick 100 or 110?
110.
110. So he's going like a little bit after like Matt Chapman and Tovar, those kind of guys, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, I have no problem taking him there.
Yeah, same.
I take him a good bit.
Yeah.
I take all of these guys. Probably Adley the least. Just it does feel not great with all these guys. You're not going to get Adley DH time, added bonus, and it's kind of expensive for a catcher that you're not getting that for. And then I'll take anybody. I've probably even taken Ryan Mountcastle a time or two. I don't recommend it though. I do. Tyler O'Neill is the one I get a lot of. Like he's like right before the outfield cliff, and I'm just grabbing him for spike week stuff. I don't know that he's worth, or like it'll be hard because he misses so much time. Like he's a hard guy to say he's worth a 101 pick without hoping for him having spike weeks when you want it.
Yeah, I was a little. I've been on the O'Neill train now, but to start Dinger season, I was not necessarily on there. I was worried about, even with the wall change, a little worried about the park, worried about his playing time, and then I was like, oh well, actually, probably gonna play quite a bit. I mean, but there is still some questions about playing time. I mean, I don't know. It's probably more injury than platoon, but every projection on O'Neill has him around 110 games. So there is some playing time ish risk there for a pick 100 player, but obviously the ceiling is pretty high. I don't think he comes without major risk. And I mean, yeah, you want to talk about like, well, how does Kerstad get in the lineup? Well, it could be, one way or another through O'Neill.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
Yeah. O'Neill's a fun pick just because he's like, it's just a health bet. I mean, if he randomly just plays 140, 150 games, I mean, it's happened like once before. He had like one. I mean, he doesn't even need 140 games to hit 30 bombs or something like that. Like he can do it in a little bit less than that. But yeah, I mean, he was going, he definitely like was one of the risers. I remember I think in the bullpen, he was like 120-ish ADP. Maybe that was just like before he signed. But yeah, he's like one of the last, like I like to get, a decent amount of outfielders before you're like taking the platoon type of guys. So yeah, I mean, if he's healthy, but that's also a good point. Like Kerstad will just play for him when he gets hurt because it's pretty much inevitable.
Yeah. All right. So as far as the rotation, let's, I think we're going to go to this few. I guess they have Eflin number 1 too. Zach Eflin as the number 1. Grayson Rodriguez they signed Charlie Morton. They have Dean Kramer here, and they have Sugano, who came over from Japan, who is 35 and a half years old. Throws junk and no speed and had no strikeouts in Japan. So I don't know. This seems like where they should have been spending a lot more money when we were talking about, even if they don't want to trade away their depth, and like I don't know, we want Grayson to take the next ace step. Like I think nobody's saying that's not there. He just has not been able to put it all together or be healthy for a whole season. So I guess, Nick, 2 questions on the rotation. What kind of step forward do you think Grayson could make this year? And then is there anyone here that you even begin to care about?
I think Rodriguez could take the step. I'm not betting on it though. I'm not, I don't know what his ADP is right now, but I'm not, heavily invested or anything like that. I think Eflin is interesting. I mean, I think Eflin was a guy we were all over coming into last year. He was coming off a great year with Tampa Bay. I mean, the way his contract is, they traded for him. He's listed as the number 1 on here. Like he's, they have the interesting thing is they're kind of one of those teams. The Astros are another one where they're getting a lot of these pitchers will come back in the middle of the season. Like Trevor Rogers is starting the year on the IL, Kyle Bradish. They also have a pretty interesting prospect knocking on the door in Cade Povich. Cade Povich was really good in September of last year. He had five good starts with a 22% K percentage difference between his walk percentage, and then had like a 13% swinging strike rate. So far in spring training, he has the highest swinging strike rate in the whole league. It's probably only 1 or 2 starts, but so I definitely think Povich, I don't know if you can draft him in best ball when he's not, in the rotation. They have like so many other options. The only guys I would really be interested in is maybe like Eflin, Rodriguez, maybe Morton. I mean, Charlie Morton's good as long as he's healthy and pitching. He's almost 41 now. But yeah, I mean, no real interest in like Dean Kramer.
Yeah, they need Charlie Morton just to pitch a bunch of innings out of this group. Like that's why they brought him in. I'm not getting there. I just feel like the ratio of good starts to bad starts doesn't really build enough confidence in me to take him in best ball. Nez, anyone else here? Are you taking Morton?
No, I'm not taking Morton. I'm not taking Eflin, but I am doing it one more time with Grayson. I think for me, the thing with Grayson is very obviously just health. If we got a full workload, a full bill of health out of Grayson, I think we would have gotten a pretty exciting season out of him. I've been excited about him since he was a prospect. So I need to see this thing through. So I'm hoping that we get a full workload out of him this year. But it's hard to not be concerned that it's 2 years, 2 injuries with Grayson. But I think what I saw last year out of him was the beginning of what I was hoping that he could become. I think you clearly saw a step forward from 23 into 24. 23, he wasn't striking out as many people as I expected, and he was getting hit way harder than I expected him to be hit. It's like he wasn't missing a lot of bats. It was really weird. And then the next year, the ERA went down, the Ks went up. I was like, all right, here we go. So I'm counting on a healthy 24, like a 24 type season with full health. And if that's the case, I think he's such a smash. I mean, he goes around guys that I think that you can clearly say that he's better than. And if he's healthy, he's very exciting.
Yep. All right. Next, we have the Rays.
Everybody erupts in excitement to talk about the Rays.
Yeah, everybody. Okay, the Tampa Bay Junior Camaneros. How about that? Is that a little better sell?
Now everybody's excited.
So, yeah.
Everybody's throwing their bats straight up in the air and walking around the bases now. Man, off-season news. I don't know. They have Caminero coming up. they signed Ha-Seong Kim. I don't think there's anything else going on. Oh, Eloy Jimenez on a minor league deal. I don't know. He could somehow make this team. Man, I don't know. It's so tough to, I don't know, to like this team at all for me.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned all the moves or lack thereof. I honestly forgot that Ha-Seong Kim went to Tampa. Good for him. Good for them. There's like two players that I like on this team, and it's Yandy and Caminero, and that's basically it. I don't really do a lot of the Josh Lowe stuff. I worry about playing time for him. Starting pitching wise, though, I mean, we'll get there. I do like these starting pitchers that are there, but it's really Junior and Yandy for me, and I think Yandy is just like year after year disrespected in ADP. So I like to take them.
Yeah, I like those guys too. I actually am more excited about the Rays than I think you guys. I think, just looking at the roster resource here, it's not one of those years. On paper, it's just not one of those years where they're platooning like 6 of the 9 positions every day. So I think that's like a huge win. Like, I'm not really that worried about like Josh Lowe's playing time. I just don't
Okay.
see like a Ramon Laureano type that like needs to play against lefties. Like the one guy who is like that is like Eloy Jimenez, but he's not going to play the outfield. Like he's gonna
Yeah.
share DH with Aranda, and I'm into the Christopher Morel bounce back. I mean, the Rays are just never wrong. Like you just have to throw your hands up and just be like, oh, the Rays traded for Christopher Morel. Like Christopher Morel has a lot of power. Like that's it's a stadium. I mean, they're playing a different stadium now, but it's still a joke stadium.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he can, tap into that power a little bit more. I mean, like Brandon Lau, like it's another, he goes really, really late this time around. It's just a health bet. He's going to hit second, the whole season between, as long as he's healthy, between Yandy and Caminero. I mean, this could all fall apart, but in the middle of the season, they could be selling off guys just like they did last year. But I don't think they will. I think their rotation is healthy. Finally, they got McClanahan back. Shane Baz has been healthy for a while now. People like talking about Pepio as a breakout guy. He goes really late. I think it's tough to take Rasmussen. I don't really know what they're going to do with him. I think it would be
Mm-hmm.
a much easier click if they traded Zach Littell in the offseason. I know they were trying to trade him at the trade deadline last year, didn't trade him in the offseason, so now they just have like 6 starters. I could see Rasmussen moving back to the bullpen. That would be horrible, obviously, for Underdog. I mean, if he ends up being like the closer, like that's okay if you're like doing like roto, but like it would be just terrible if you've been picking him on Underdog. But yeah, like I agree. Like Yandy is like a really good pick. Like I don't mind like just tacking on like Brandon Lau and Morel late. Like really like those guys.
Yeah, for as unexcited as I am, I don't mind the stack because of what it costs you. Um, like Junior Caminera obviously is a riser. His cost is going up. But if you're taking him, you can know that your overall stack cost isn't going to be high. So like even if you're like taking him way above just base level projections on a young guy who has a huge range of outcomes, like if you want to put him with other guys, you can feel comfortable that overall you're not like taking a bunch of risk on late round guys. And I mean, Brandon Lau health risks and like I don't dislike the Josh Lowe stuff, but I'm not as excited about it. But I didn't realize it until we pulled this up and you mentioned it, Nick, is that just how few guys they actually have to platoon? Because I mean, the options here are pretty thin that they're going to bring in. So like, That
So-
is a good point.
I don't know if he's on there, but Curtis Mead, is Curtis Mead on the bench there or no?
No.
Okay, so they don't they don't even have him making the team, but he's been the best hitter in spring training, like for anyone. It's only like 15 at bats, but
They have him at AAA to start.
they
the
have him
season.
going. I think he might be out of options or something. Like I think the Rays like have to make a decision on him. Maybe he has one left. I guess. I think that's what it says there. But yeah, so he like is like an interesting like not in Underdog, but like he's like a name to know for like DFS or daily stuff. I think if he works his way into the lineup.
I'm laughing because his projections, like like he must have a relatives at Zips because it's like everybody's got him for 20 games, and then Zips is like 118 games, 500 plate appearances. Oh, with 107 WRC plus, by the way, suck it. he's out here. So I mean, he's only 24. I'm sure we'll be seeing him a little bit, but no, I mean, the one thing that you said is like I think true is like the Rays just seem to just make it happen. You know, just like you look at this team, how are they going to wiggle their way out of this one? Darn, they did it again, and so like where are the everyday plate appearances where the Rays could be right? And I think Josh Lowe is one that I originally was like I don't know, and I'm still like not in love with Josh Lowe, but like Morel, I think Morel is a pretty good. Morel is like just so incredibly cheap on Underdog, and I don't think they're going to play him, in the infield at all. But he has played the infield in the past, so it just gives him, multiple ways to find his way into the lineup. Morel is mashed a little bit in his time, and maybe the Rays can find a way to make that work in what should be a pretty hitter friendly park. Where they're at, so he's definitely an interesting one because he's just literally free. Like he's like hardly ever drafted.
Yeah, that is the other news that it's been mentioned here. I didn't say it at the start. They're going to be playing at Steinbrenner Field, which is an outdoor spring training stadium or minor league stadium.
No, it's spring training.
Is this spring training?
Yeah,
That's
it's in Tampa, Florida. It's going to be hot there this summer, guys. The ball is going to be flying, and it has the same dimensions as Yankee Stadium. It's like if you put Yankee Stadium in Florida, like, and it was 90 like it's going to be insane.
Now, I know you're not Kevin Roth, but is there any concern about like the rain that you know of there? Like, do you think there's going to be like some?
I mean, the only time I've seen like games there is the Yankee spring training. It is really funny too, because they mentioned this on one of the Yankees broadcasts. I think they were playing the Rays. But they're going to use like the Yankees locker room, and there's like, they can like paper over like all the stuff that says Yankees pretty much, except for in the center of the locker room on the ceiling, there's just a massive interlocking NY that will be there just the entire year. There's just no way to cover it up. It's enormous. It's huge.
Certainly, they could employ some painters to get that thing covered up and then just repaint it. That's hilarious. How does that affect their home games whenever they got to look at that big Yankee logo?
I mean, they're going to be playing.
That's crazy.
Yankees at some point. I mean, they'll lose to the Yankees at home at some point. You would think. I have to go into the locker room and see a huge Yankee logo.
And I'm sure because the Yankees have been in that area for spring training for so long. I'm sure that it'll be like a Yankee home game too at those.
Yeah, there's probably people that live down there that watch them in spring training. Yep.
So that transitions us over into the rotation. If we think it's going to be good for bats, we don't think it's going to be good for pitchers. We have Shane McClanahan coming back, supposed to quote unquote get 160 innings. What does that look like? We don't know. Taj Bradley, Ryan Pepios, Zach Littell, Shane Baz, and Drew Rasmussen here as SP6. They're not going to do a 6-man rotation. That's not what the Rays do. They're going to be more likely to jam two of these guys together in one day, I think. So I guess, Nez, Shane McClanahan, do you buy the timetable predictions that the team's giving, and like, are you, what is the risk of coming off TJ?
Yeah, definitely not in love with the news blurb that they're talking about limiting his innings, but it is still Shane McClanahan to me, and I'm buying pretty aggressively right now, and I'm just like I'm going to plug holes where they need to be plugged, around him, and just like let the best ball format do its thing, and hope that I just get the best of Shane McClanahan specifically in the playoffs, because like you said, it's likely to be a 5-man rotation with some bullpen games here and there. So if we can just like get a 2-start week for McClanahan, and however that looks, that's terrific. I'm just such a Shane McClanahan fan that as long as he's healthy, man, I don't I'm gonna just hope for the best and draft him, because this dude's nasty, just absolutely just insanely good. So I want a lot of Shane.
So then, Nick, going on, you said you like the other pieces here too. So, what's some of your favorites, and who do you think is good for our format? Because the cost, after you have Shane McClanahan, Taj Bradley is at 171, but then everyone else is 200 or after.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bradley, had some really nice stretches last year. I think Pepio is like a popular breakout candidate, and I'm almost kind of confused why he goes ahead of Shane Baz. Like, I think he's a great breakout candidate as well. So, and he's like basically free. So I think all three of those guys make a lot of sense. I would just be apprehensive about taking Rasmussen. I just think Rasmussen could be like you mentioned, like I don't really know how it's going to work, because it could be I mean, I think they're going to want to limit his innings. But like Zach Littell, he can throw 6 innings. Like, I think that's kind of he's not like overpowering. I think his utility is like to eat some innings. So I just don't know what they're going to do with Rasmussen. He's the guy I just am kind of throwing my hands up. I think all the other guys, I mean, I think, they could trade, if they trade Littell before the season or at any point, during the season, then obviously Rasmussen makes tons of sense as the 5th starter. But yeah, I think the other guys are just locked in. You just don't even want to worry about it. No, I really like Shane Baz a lot. I mean, he's just going totally free. I mean, I like Bradley and Pepio too, but I just think I don't really have any like difference with those guys. I think they're all kind of the same. I think they could all kind of break out. But I think Bradley, like, he was good for people last year. Like, if people had him in Roto, he was really good in the second half for like nice little stretches of the season. So yeah, I mean, I think all those guys are interesting. I mean, you did mention, if we like the ballpark is going to be worse. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I just kind of, all these guys have really good stuff. I mean, Shane Baz, he's finally healthy. I just can't see them taking Baz or Pepio or Bradley like out of the rotation for Rasmussen and Zach Littell. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I think the reason they go in this order is the most recent we've seen them pitch a good amount of innings. Like,
Okay.
because Pepio did 130 last year. Bradley, I think, he pitched more than 138 because he had some downtime in the minors, I think. And then Baz, I guess he got to 80 last year. That's more than I had even thought. So I think that is kind of the mind of the people drafting them. But yeah, they've all been, even if they're not on breakout lists now, they've all been on breakout lists in the past couple of years. All right, let us move on to the Red Sox, who have had quite a few off-season moves. Obviously, the big latest one was Alex Bregman.
Boo. Boo.
Why Why are you booing? I thought if
no,
I'm
the Tiger-
following your Twitter timeline, you do not want him in Detroit. So
Well, I say that now that he's not coming here. But
okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
I wanted him. I mean, no, we're good. Jace Jung is here.
We're good.
Um,
voice.
and then they added in the pitchers, Garrett Crochet, the trade there. And then I think the other notable thing this spring is the talk of Christian Campbell and Roman Anthony. It seems like all signs indicate that Christian Campbell is not going to be making this team, as we had hoped in early draft season.
What?
Yeah, I know. I was grabbing some, but he has not looked right in spring. He got his first hit the other day, and I saw some interesting talk from
really?
the coach.
I was joking. I didn't know he wasn't playing well. I just think it's so funny that Rafael Devers just comes in, clearly has not taken a ground ball at third base since last September, and he's just like, oh yeah, I'm not moving positions. And then he's out there with Bregman, and Bregman is just running circles around. Bregman looks like he's been playing for months now, and Devers is just like, oh yeah, I'm the third baseman. Get out of here, bro. You're such a DH. Get out of here.
Love it. I love it.
No, Christian Campbell has been striking out all over the place. He's not going to make the team.
So that's interesting. I will just say that Roto World's Christopher Crawford, he's a really good prospects guy. He's not very high on Campbell to begin with. He just doesn't buy the hype on him really as a top level prospect. So I don't know. I've drafted him, that's for sure. Before they signed Bregman, obviously, but just throwing that out there.
Yeah. What about Roman Anthony? Is he a little bit higher than on Roman?
Oh, I don't know. I just know that he's lower on. I mean, I think everybody likes Roman Anthony. I think Roman Anthony's a top 3 prospect for pretty much everybody.
Yeah, it's interesting. It just felt like going into spring, people were talking more about Christian Campbell. Maybe that's because he was less of a thing.
I think because they had second base open. It was basically just David
Good
Hamilton.
point.
I mean, I guess their outfield is kind of open. I mean, now you have Yoshida is healthy. They signed Bregman, so it looks like Rafaela will play in the outfield.
Yeah, that seemed to be the plan. The talk even before they signed Bregman was that they wanted to stick Rafaela in the outfield and just stick to one position this year. So we got the lineup here. Yoshida, platoon bat at the DH spot, and then have Abreu in right field, platooning with, I guess, probably Rob Refsnyder against lefties. I don't think any of this depth is really relevant to Underdog. But as far as this stack goes, Nez, I know you're the biggest Jarren Duran bull, and you're kind of confused why he falls in a lot of drafts.
Yeah, I'm not so confused to the point. I mean, I don't want other people drafting him, but I guess I just don't really I don't really understand the projections on Jarren Duran and where they think the fall off is coming from. Personally, I think that there's way too much of a fall off baked into the projection for Jarren Duran. For a guy that in 735 plate appearances last year almost put up a 500 slug. And then in 100 plate appearances last year or the year prior, or 100 games, 362 plate appearances the year prior, 482 slug. So I mean, we have a 1,000 plate appearance sample of this guy just being a dude, and for whatever reason, people don't really want a part of it. And I just think, man, I think this Red Sox lineup is so good. And so he's hitting leadoff. He's extremely live to lead the major leagues in plate appearances this season, hitting in front of Devers, Bregman, Casas, potentially Roman Anthony coming up. I mean, it's a pretty sick situation, not to mention he's playing in one of the best park factors in baseball. I guess I'm just like, you know what? I don't even want to know what I'm missing. I'm just going to go for it and trust my gut on this, that like Jarren Duran is like one of the only reasons why pick 12 kind of kicks ass, because you can take Jarren Duran.
I'll give you like the Debbie Downer case on him. It's pretty simple. It's just he's a little bit of a late bloomer. He's a little bit older, and that he kind of needs like 700 plate appearances to pay it off, which is a lot. He needs to stay healthy, but that's everybody. So I agree. Like I think he's really good. I actually got him in the third round of a RotoWire online championship, like a rotisserie draft. Like he, not a guy I've been targeting necessarily, but he just fell to me in the third round, and I was like, he's clearly the best player. I don't see any kind of drop off with his play coming. I think he's legit. I just think people are not like, he's just not, he's not like a Jackson Churio is like a top prospect. He's had one season and he's been good. This guy, he's a little bit older, and I really think that's all it is. I mean, this guy was MVP of the All-Star game last year.
Yep.
Like he's a really good player.
Yeah, I'm definitely just like enamored with his season last year, because like I was along for the ride the entire way in during DFS season, during dailies. Anytime he was at home against a righty, it was just like 50% Jarren Duran day coming up. And I mean, if you look at like the rolling averages, like multiple stretches of like 200 WRC plus stretches for him, like during the season. Just, I mean, obviously like the last year, no one is going to obviously argue that last year wasn't good. Obviously it was. It's like, okay, do it again. And all those reasons do make sense for sure. I am just got, very strong rose-colored glasses when it comes to Duran.
Yeah, I on Friday I did get him in the Bubba and the Bloom Listener League auction that I was doing. He was my first outfielder for like $24. So it seemed
nice.
It seems like maybe for me it's the second round price on Underdog that's shying me away. But yeah, you're right. If he gets that plate appearances, he could get there. All right. So in terms of the stack, I mean, you can take. I don't know. You can't take Story. I don't think. I don't really think there's much left in that bat. So I guess the question for me, the other guy, the top four guys are obvious. Maybe not so obvious. The Bat X is not a Tristan Casas fan, but outside of that, Yoshida, Abreu, and Rafaela, are any of those guys worth going after an Underdog?
I mean, Rafaela, if you like very blue baseball savant pages, then go after Ceddanne Rafaela. He doesn't hit the ball very hard.
He's the most confounding ADP, I think, in like Underdog history to me.
What's his ADP?
It's
134.
Oh, it's just because he's an outfielder. That's got to be it. I mean,
I am like, but it's like it's like risen. I'm like, what am I? I'm like, what am I missing here? Because he had 1,000 points on Underdog last year.
He batted ninth the whole year and still drove in like what 70 or 80 runs or something. Like it was crazy.
70 runs
70,
scored,
75
ribbies with 19 stolen bases and 15 home runs. So like that's hats off. That's pretty incredible for you, sir. I will give you credit for that season, Mr. Rafaela. But like you walked 2% of the time last year. Like
so they did. So they have been saying in spring training that he has really, really worked on his plate discipline, and the early returns. Again, it's like probably like less than 20 plate appearances, but he's like not even swing. He's like swung like twice. Like he's really like laying off
He's
stuff.
going the opposite way.
Yeah. No, I know it sounds ridiculous. It sounds ridiculous. Not something I would buy into at his current ADP at all. But that's what the Red Sox are going with. I mean, he's so fast. Like he can fly. So I mean, if they just get a little bit more than they did last year out of him offensively, I mean, they'll take that. I mean, he's a dynamic player, but he doesn't.
Pretty good real life player.
Yeah, he's a good rigs. That's a great way of putting it because he's
Yeah.
just not. It doesn't seem like he's gonna like start hitting a lot of home runs or anything like that.
All right, so for the rotation, obviously Gary Crochet is the top there now. We went through the second half of pitchers, and our friend Tuma has sold me on Tanner Houck being someone I should be taking more of. Walker Buehler and Giolito and Brian Bayo. Cutter Crawford is having some knee issues, so that doesn't seem like he's going to be pushing for this rotation even much at all. Who else? Yeah, they got him at 11%, but don't believe that's going to happen. So, outside of Crochet, Nick, who do you like to target here? We can pull up the ADPs too of these guys. They're all pretty much free.
Yeah, I mean, I have had a lot of Tanner Houck so far drafting. I mean, I kind of slowed down. I've only done like 10 dingers, but I did like 65 bullpens. I got a good amount of Tanner Houck. Honestly, I wish I took more Walker Buehler. I think he looked really good in his first spring training start. Wouldn't be surprised if he put it all back together. I mean, Giolito, I guess. I'm not really interested in Bayo like at all. I guess Giolito, I think, is if he's healthy for the start of the season, I think that's a great sign. I mean, it's best ball. You're not going to get the games where he gives up 5 home runs. So I think you can do worse as like your last pitcher.
Yeah, I think the benefit of him is that he is not going in every draft too. So
Yeah. Okay.
So I think you could get a little bit sneaky with him there. But yeah, I need to get Houck into my portfolio more. I take some Walker Buehler, even though I've never been a huge fan. But at this price, just mix him in here at the end. Anything much different from you, Nez, on these guys?
No, I think Giolito is one that I was like, oh yeah, I kind of forgot about him, and it seems like he's trending up health wise, so that's pretty interesting. That'll probably be like a very, very end of dinger season for me until I finally pull the trigger on him, because it is sort of hard to find reliable innings that you can sort of trust. And I mean, it's been a minute since we've seen Giolito pitch, but I mean, I would not rule out a nice little bounce back for him. I kind of trust what's going on in Boston. I guess the one thing for me is like, and I'm sure that most people watching this that are drafting best ball don't take a lot of Garrett Crochet. I wouldn't expect. I'm def. Do you?
Yeah.
I'm a little worried. I think there's some risk with Crochet, but that's probably just like kind of funny coming from a guy who like will take Paul Skeens whenever he falls like one pick. But I mean, Garrett Crochet before last year, I mean, like threw 100 innings in his professional career, 100 innings. And like now he's thrown 146 last year, and they obviously for reasons the White Sox didn't fully stretch him out, but like the raw stuff is so undeniable. Like it's so undeniable that like he's got just like some insane stuff. I'm just really worried. Like, can this dude actually withstand a workload? A real professional workload at ADP 50. It's probably going to hurt if he does, and I'm not there to find out. But that's my big concern. But I mean, you can obviously have health concerns. It's so easy to make a bear case about a pitcher, but that's where I'm at on Crochet.
So how many innings do you have last year? What does it say?
146.
Yeah, so that's the thing is like they didn't push him like that much last year. Like I know it was like around the trade deadline, he was like, I want an extent, like give me an extension.
Yeah.
Like I feel like he's just gonna keep throwing until he gets an extent. Like he just wants an extension. But yeah, I don't see him throwing 180 innings this year, and I think he could pay off. You know, with doing the same thing he did. Like he strikes out so many guys throwing 5 or 6 innings. Like it's not
his K rate's absurd.
It's just not a big deal. And like he goes a decent bit after like even like Wheeler and Skeens and Screwball, right? Like he's not, you know, he goes after Cease too. So it's like, yeah, I wouldn't want to take him like where Screwball goes, but I think it's fine.
Okay.
I mean, he's just like if in that same range, like he's just a completely different pitcher than like Gilbert and Burns are like the most reliable guys you could pick ever. But yeah, Crochet is just he's so exciting because he just like you'll just turn the game on and it's like, oh, they're just not gonna hit him. He's gonna have like 11 strikeouts in 4 innings and
yeah. For those of you that think that I don't take exciting players, I have like 10% Garrett Crochet this year. So.
Nice.
Beat the allegations, sheep.
Yeah. Put that in the record books. I have 1 exciting player I'm taking this year, maybe even 2, because I am taking a lot of Cole Reagans too. But we don't need to get into that. This is not a pitching show. Okay. And no one else. Mr. Richard Fitz, not really. They kind of have the depth here. All right, let us go to our last team, the Yankees of New York. Off-season moves. Soto is gone. They bring in Cody Bellinger and Paul Goldschmidt. They do not add a third baseman. I guess that seems like the biggest hole in what they have. Nick, the one message I sent to you over on Twitter was, are they going to let Jason Dominguez just have full run this year? So I'll put that to you to start this off because I think he's kind of the most exciting piece here potentially.
I think when you sent me that, you were like thinking that they were going to bring Alex Verdugo back.
Well, no, not so much that, just that they preferred him in the playoffs for the defense. So, and I didn't know if that was a mentality going ahead.
So yeah, early on in spring training, his defense has been an issue in left field. It's been bad from the couple games I've watched. I don't really think it matters. I think especially like Giancarlo Stanton is not going to be healthy to start the season, and it's like really up in the air, like when he's ever going to come back. Like he's got issues with like both of his elbows. Doesn't sound good. Yeah, he's like the Chris Middleton of elbows. It's like both of them. But like, so like, you know, he's out. You know, maybe they could get him some DH at bats early in the season before Stanton comes back because the DH is like open for now. But I mean, they want, you know, Dominguez has been a center fielder in the minor leagues. Like, it shouldn't be like the most difficult thing in the world to play left field, even though it kind of has been for him so far. It's a very small sample size though. So we'll see what happens. But I mean, I think, you know, you look at the roster resource, this is probably what most likely will happen is Jazz Chisholm will lead off, but it's not been decided yet. I think Dominguez is live to hit leadoff, which would be massive for his fantasy value. Volpe is live to hit leadoff. I think Volpe's made some improvements, you know, since the end of last season. I mean, he certainly hit a lot better than he did in the regular season in the playoffs last year. So I think he's made some adjustments. You know, third base is an issue. I mean, LeMahieu is already hurt.
saw that.
So Oswaldo Cabrera, I mean, he's whatever. I mean, he's undraftable for sure. Just because they could 2 months into the season, another team wants to trade Giovanni Urshela, they'll take him at this point, take him back. Like, yeah, I don't know what they're doing at third base. So yeah, I mean, I just think. I mean, I'm high on their off season. I mean, maybe it's cope from them losing Soto, but I like the Bellinger move. Bellinger in this ballpark is just perfect. I think that's going to work out. I don't think Goldschmidt's done. I think that this is just like a classic Yankees offseason. We've seen this so many times. Oh, get a couple veteran guys, and I think that's fine. Like, I think I'm high on Austin Wells too. So like, even without Stanton, like, this is a good lineup.
Yeah, for sure. I'm pretty excited about Jazz, even if he's not leading off. I just what we saw last year once he went to the Yankees, just like, I don't know if he was finally happy to play baseball again, if that was it, or just he had a little more opportunity to run more, or what it is. But he looked like the Jazz that we've always wanted, out of the personality and the flash there coming to the field. Yeah, and I'm banking on one more year of Goldschmidt too myself.
Yeah, Goldschmidt's really easy to stack when you're drafting Aaron Judge. It always seems to be there. Jazz and Bellinger both line up ADP wise with Judge as well, where they end up going. Given that Bellinger's an outfielder, I do prefer Bellinger. Like Nick said, like him in this park, I think is just gonna be a little too easy. And Dominguez is getting some hype too, just because like people are drafting Judge, and more and more people know who Dominguez is. I mean, the nickname is the Martian. I mean, people are excited to see him get full playing time with the New York Yankees. So I think he's only going to continue to rise, and let him like hit 2 home runs in one game in spring, or back-to-back home runs in spring. And, there you have an extra 2 rounds on his ADP. I mean, it won't take much for people to get excited.
Yeah. I've been taking him solo too, because, since I had that original message to Nick, they with Stan going out and them not bringing anyone else in, it seems pretty clear that they're signaling that even with the defensive stuff, and they'll let him go. And I mean, they have Trent Grisham sitting there if they do need to figure out a better defensive.
We're good. we have Trent Grisham.
Well, you know what I mean. Like,
No.
if they need a better defensive configuration,
well, they're the ones that did it. Obviously, it's their that there's. Anyways, I think too. Just like a very very short tangent here. I think the Yankees, saw the way that the Phillies have been building teams, and they're just like, who cares about defense? Like, I don't like who cares? Let's just like put bats in the lineup and like figure it out. And I think that's probably what they're thinking with Dominguez. Like, buddy, you're young, like you can play the outfield. At this point, it's like, do you have the durability to play the outfield? I think we're seeing more and more like how difficult playing the outfield can be on one's health. And so just like, if you can just like stay healthy out there, like we'll take the bad with the production in offense. So I feel like Dominguez is so sure to be playing.
But that's he's for sure playing. But I think that's kind of what they did last year, and it bit them in the World Series, was because Juan Soto's horrible in that. Juan Soto is like playing David Ortiz in the outfield. He was just horrendous. Like, and then having to play him, you have to play Judge in center field, and that's just like playing a basketball player in center field. So it's just like, it was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Rotation wise, Garrett Cole. They also added Max Fried. Forgot about that addition. After that, Carlos Rodon, and then penciled in before was Luis Heel. Here, now pretty bad outlook on his shoulder stuff. Sounds like they're comparing it to what Clark Schmidt had last year, and he missed most of the season because of it. So that sounds like he's pretty much undraftable at this point. But I think there was some other stuff with Clark Schmidt. I don't know what the latest health on him. I guess 5 days ago he's facing hitters this weekend, but he's not been reliable. And then Marcus Stroman says he's a starter and seems like he's going to get his way. I guess, Nick, two things. Garrett Cole, what do you think, or who do you think Garrett Cole is at this point? And then what do you think Max Fried can do as a Yankee?
I like Max Fried a lot. I mean, I think he's still really good. I don't really see him having a drop off just going to the Yankees. I mean, I think being a left-hand pitcher, I think will help him in the home games. And I think as long as he's staying healthy, I think he should be fine. I know there's kind of maybe a long-term health risk with him. He's had either forearm or elbow issues in the past. So they gave him a really, really long contract. So we'll see how that works out. I don't think Garrett Cole is like ever going to be like peak Garrett Cole again. I mean, I don't think that means he can't be a good pick necessarily, but I mean, if you're just, he dealt with injury last year, he came back, wasn't really that good. He was solid, but like, if I want to take a guy who I just think will throw like 200 innings and be solid, I'll take like Aaron Nola or someone like that, who's been just like 200 innings every season. Like Garrett Cole, I didn't watch his spring training start, but I did hear that he kind of was like mixing it up a little bit more, pitching backwards, whatever he was doing. It was like he's sort of like at the later stage of his career. He's like maybe not quite reinventing himself, but he's not just throwing 99 and saying go ahead and hit it. So I do have some concerns with him. Not a guy I'm targeting really at all this year. So I was perfectly fine in like roto leagues last year he was hurt to start the season. So after that, you could get him for nothing and just stash him. And I was hoping he would be better when he came back, and he wasn't that great. He was fine. But that's the other thing is like the Yankees they're not going to pull him after 5 or 6 innings if he's like going well. They'll let him, give up 3 or 4 runs in a game where he could have just left after 6 with 1 earned run or something like that. They'll let him, try to like be his own setup man for the 7th inning, and then he's not that guy anymore. It doesn't seem like to me.
Yeah, it's an interesting range of outcomes for Garrett Cole. Obviously, the positive range of outcomes are very, very exciting for Garrett Cole. But I mean, I don't think there's any chance that he throws 200 innings. Like, I just don't know. It just wouldn't make sense for them to allow him to get to the point where he's throwing 200 innings. Like, I don't know why they would ever do that, unless every outing is just so efficient and he's just never hitting 100 pitches. It's incredible. I don't think that's happening. But so it's an interesting price for Garrett Cole. But yeah, I'm with you. I think there's more to be worried about than to be excited about with Cole.
So then, Nez, what do you think about Rodon and Schmidt at their costs?
Yeah, so I do take a good bit of Rodon. Like where he goes, I mean, he just stands out to me personally. Like I like what I saw last year out of Rodon. Like we saw a pretty healthy year out of him. We saw a good dose of strikeouts, and like he just is. If we're gonna get what we got last year, this year with health, he's better than these guys. Like he's better than like a round of the guys ahead of him, in my opinion. I'm really into Rodon. I have a lot of Rodon this year, and then Clark Schmidt is somebody that like I am kind of like repenting over right now. Like I was a little too unfamiliar with Clark Schmidt's game the last 2 years, and it seems like he's gonna have to pitch quite a bit. And for his ADP, he's a pretty fun addition to a rotation. I mean, if you're looking at for an SP7 and you're just like, all right, please just like stay healthy. If you get like 160 healthy innings out of Clark Schmidt, I think you're going to be really happy with his price.
Yeah, I agree. I grab him a little bit. I backed off when he had some health issues already in the spring, but now that he's throwing again, I might need to move that back in. With the loss of Heel, Nick, the name Will Warren has started to pop up. I don't know that how much is relevant for Underdog, but I guess what is your thought on him compared to Stroman? Do they have to start Stroman because they're paying him?
Yeah, pretty much. That's kind of where I'm at with it. I mean, Will Warren had a 5.92 ERA in the minors last year.
Okay.
Like, I don't think Will Warren, like, I think the early buzz in spring training is positive with him. But I think he's more of like a guy, if he got into the rotation, you would pick him up maybe in a deeper, like in a 15 team mixed league. I don't think he's viable for Underdog, like you were saying. And then like Marcus Stroman, I mean, you know, he was left off the playoff roster entirely last year, which speaks volumes for, I mean, Heel and Schmidt were healthy. And they didn't have Fried, you know, so I just, you know, he pitched well most of the season during the regular season. He's just one of those guys, like he's very short. So I don't think he can really hold up, you know, and that's like his thing too, is like those good years like that he had. Maybe it was only 1 year that was good with the Cubs. Yeah. You know, he was a guy who could eat innings. He could go 7, 8, 9 innings. But he doesn't strike a lot of guys out. He's not a very exciting player. Not a guy you're going to be taking and being like, oh yeah, this guy will definitely be in the Yankees rotation during the Underdog playoffs. Like, no, it's probably like less than 25% chance of that happening.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right. Well, we did it. We made it all the way through one division. Hopefully, let me know in the comments if you found this helpful in expanding your knowledge of some of these teams. We'll be hitting these, each division, different guests along the way. I don't know, guys. Thanks for joining tonight. It was nice. Thanks, Nez, for pinch hitting here tonight. And Nick, it's always wonderful to talk to you. Anything else you guys got? I'm a little bit disjointed tonight, if you can't tell.
No, I think you couldn't tell. No, this was a lot of fun, Nick. It was great to get to speak with you here, and this was a fun exercise to kind of go through all these teams and kind of get put back on certain players' radars for me.
Excellent. For Nick and Nez and myself, thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more of these, and just go out there and keep filling some lobbies.